Many people will not have heard of this game, or rather they would have stumbled upon it and smirk at the weird looking girl on the front cover, but behind the emo looking eyes is an evil child who would like nothing else than to consume you. From the cover you can't tell much, other than you'll be discovering something which has caused an event, hence the title Project Origin. Also on the cover you'll see a lone soldier standing atop a broken and obliterated city. So somehow, this evil little girl, the obliteration of the world, and your lone character fit together. Chilling thought. The game starts with the opening chapter, Premonition. Through your eyes you see the world in flames and burning, but something stands out. A naked woman walking ahead of you, and walks into the fires of hell. Then suddenly you're thrown back into reality with your character driving in an armoured vehicle. You're not really sure who is who yet, and what is happening. Suddenly you start to hear a faint record player playing a soothing tune, and BAM! Alma hits you. This is just the first time you jump in your seat, there are many more to come. I won't go into more detail about when and where the horror moments occur, but I'll explain the general storyline, without giving anything away of course. You arrive at a mansion-like building, but something is wrong. The doors are barricaded and there are no signs of life at all. You and your F.E.A.R team divide and storm the building at different entrances, but still nothing happens. Your objective is simple: retrieve General Aristol, President of Armacham Technology Corporation, and bring her back. No questions asked and no explanations. But things aren't as they seem, and you know something is wrong. And that little girl whom you smirked at, she doesn't really look so friendly anymore when you see the building secretary's head blown off and left to rot on the floor. Surprisingly, the gameplay is actually very good. It has solid shooting and it feels very heavy, quite like Killzone 2. The game in itself reminds me completely of Killzone 2 actually. They came around the same year, and the solid gameplay and quite nice graphics. Although the blood on the wall isn't quite what I'd love to see in a game, but whatever. The ammo consumption is very accurate. Dead enemies actually drop their ammo instead of throwing it into oblivion. The game is a challenge. While shooting one or two enemies at a time is quite easy, taking on a horde of them at once is actually quite tactical, throwing incendiary grenades and shock flashes in order to shoot at the other enemies while not being obliterated by 100 others. In the game, the enemies are well varied, becoming stronger as you move on to different chapters. The story really captures you, always something different. The signs on the wall become more blooded and more brutal, although that might not be your cup of tea, but oh well. Everything becomes stranger. You become delusional, seeing things and having hallucinations. Things do seem to fit together. Around halfway through you finally see why everything has happened, and you've got to stop her. This game is about horror, and it does deliver. However, there are other better horror games out there, but not many have horror and great gameplay. At some stages it's not really about being in a survival horror, but more of a detective horror, where you've got to work out the mystery for yourself by defending your life and killing all of those who get in your way. But it's also a bit scared about what comes around the corner. As the game moves on, the regular soldiers are replaced by evil little creatures and generally the spawn of the devil. But I won't get into that, but they are definitely much stronger than about 5 soldiers with pathetic little AK-47s. Many people may be horror enthusiasts, and I wouldn't say this was the best of the lot, not by a long shot, but this definitely offers something which other games don't, with shooting which can rival that of Call of Duty. This is supposed to be a survival horror, but it can do that with a pinch of salt while you can also enjoy the game, not just quiver in your chair and become almost unplayable, although I guess many people like this compared to other games. I actually prefer to have a chance to blow the enemy's head off before I get gouged to death and my head ripped off. And yet again, surprisingly, the online is actually very good, although sadly because of the other mainstream games, Call of Duty, bad company, many people aren't online, and you can only really play on one game type, which is only on ranked, so generally people take the game quite seriously as well. The shooting is great, as I've said numerous times, and also Melee is well incorporated. There's a lot of diverse game types and game modes which are quite fun, but only when you can actually join a game. There's still a lot to offer from this game, all it really needs is some people to actually play it. In conclusion, for F.E.A.R 2 I'm giving an 8 out of 10. The shooting is exactly what I want in a game, with the horror element being a nice touch. However much I enjoy this game and the shooting, the online just isn't popular enough, and at points I can kind of predict when a scary moment might occur, but it doesn't, and then actually scares you at the most likely moment. So, in other words, that's not really a bad point, more a good point, although not so good when I jump back in my chair. Sometimes, generally, it's the undercover game which surprise you the most. For the prices you can find this game at nowadays, it's definitely worth the cover price of £10.